Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Marisa Kazem and today I'm going to be showing you how I set up October in my bullet journal. So for this month, I really wanted to do a Halloween theme. I know a lot of people do Halloween themes in October and I'm no different. I love Halloween, it's one of my favorite seasons of the year, and I really wanted to do an American Horror Story theme. If you don't watch the show, this theme may mean nothing to you, but I love American Horror Story, I'm obsessed with it, and I really wanted to just dedicate a whole theme to it and also challenge myself artistically. So for the cover page, I thought I would draw Murder House, and instead of drawing the classic characters that we see in Murder House, I decided to draw the rubber woman played by Sierra McComrick from the new spin-off show called American Horror Stories. If you haven't seen it, it's on Hulu, and I really recommend that you watch it. There's a new character named the Rubber Woman, and she is so cool and such an amazing addition to Murder House. And because it came out this year very recently, I decided to draw her on the front cover. So if you've only seen American Horror Story and you're wondering why the rubber figure is a woman, that's why. In the original, in the first season of the show, the person in the rubber suit is played by a male character, but in this series it was a woman, and I loved it. And she was such a cool addition, so I really wanted to draw her. And I also thought, like, when you think of American Horror Story, I feel like Murder House is one of the things we think of because it's such an important season, even though it was the first one, and it comes up again later on in other seasons. So I really wanted that to be my main focus for the cover page. And I also wanted to draw the rubber woman because I didn't want to draw any face on the cover page. I just wanted it to look spooky and have that American Horror Story vibe to it. So that's why I stuck with this simple design. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss any of my future videos that come out. So to do all of these drawings, I sized the images that I wanted on a Word document and I printed them out and I traced them into my journal with transfer paper. It's a graphite transfer paper. I'll link it down below. I could have hand sketched everything, but I thought there was no point. I don't have time for that, especially with how many drawings I have to get through throughout this setup. So I decided to just trace everything. And for the quote for this month, I decided to use the quote, "Do not for 1 second think I am weak," by Cordelia Good, played by Sarah Paulson in the season Coven. I thought her character was amazing and I wanted to have my quote dedicated to her. So for my monthly goals and calendar page, I really wanted to draw Lady Gaga as the Countess from Hotel. She was such an amazing addition to that season, and I don't think that season would have been the same without her. She was definitely my favorite character in that season, and I just love Lady Gaga in general. I am such a huge fan, so I thought I would draw her, and she has the perfect spooky vibe, especially with the blood dripping out of her mouth. And yeah, so for all of these drawings, most of them I used a 003 nib from the Pigma Microns. And the reason I did that is because I really wanted to use the thinnest pen so that I could control how dark all of the shadows were going to be. Every now and then I did use the 005 if I just wanted to darken an area up, but I really wanted to keep these drawings light and thinner pens allow you to create more texture and more detail, so that's why I use the thinner ones. This is also the first time I'm using stamps in my bullet journal, and I really do like the look. I definitely think it gives it a creepier vibe, especially the white ink on the black paper. And here I was just messing around with the washi tape trying to figure out what I liked, but I just trimmed the edges, drew a border, and that was it. Most of my spreads were definitely focused on the drawings themselves, and then I just added a few little bits and pieces here and there just to make it not look so plain on the page. So for this next spread, it's my positivity log and my mood tracker, and I decided to draw Cody Fern, who played Michael Langdon in Apocalypse. He made that season what it was. Like, it was absolutely amazing, and I loved his character, and I think he was the perfect actor to play that role. And I just loved how creepy he was at the end. His character definitely evolved a lot from the beginning of the season to the end, and I loved how he turned out in the end. I know he's the bad guy, but it was such a cool season, and I thought I would have him as my mood tracker. And the reason I designed it like this is because the reference photo that I used is him standing with a bunch of candles behind him, and they're very far in the distance. But I thought if I draw him in the center and then I color each flame a different color for my mood throughout the month, I thought it would turn out looking really cool. My mood is always up and down, so I know I won't have a row of candles all one color. And I thought that would give me a good reason to have such a decent sized, amazing drawing in the middle of my page. And I really loved this drawing. I loved how the jacket turned out as well, because his jacket took so long. I can't even explain how long it takes to use such a fine pen and try to make a jacket look black, because he was wearing black. So it was very hard and it took a lot of layering, but I think the effect of the shadows came out really well, and I'm overall really happy with it. I also just quickly wanted to say hi and welcome and thank you to all of you who have recently subscribed to me. I've got a lot of new subscribers recently, and I haven't had a spike like that ever on my channel, and I just wanted to say thank you and hi, and I hope you guys are enjoying my content. This video took a lot of work, so I know it's a long video, so I'm sorry about that, but I really hope you guys enjoy watching this video and enjoy the rest of my content that I'll be coming out with every month. So for my next spread, this is my habit tracker and my weight tracker, and I really wanted to draw Finn Whitrock as Dandy Mott in Freak Show and Sarah Paulson as Dot and Bet in Freak Show. Freak Show was a very weird season to me. I loved the whole idea of it, but the ending felt very weird. If you've seen the show, I'm pretty sure you know what I mean about the ending. And they definitely could have connected it to Asylum, and they didn't, and that drove me mad. But I overall loved the show. I loved the way the characters came out, especially Finn Whitrock as Dandy Mott. He was the freak of the show, you know? They were trying to show that the circus is where the freaky people are, but in reality it's him. He's the crazy person, and I just thought his character was played so well, and I really wanted to draw him. I was initially going to draw him when he had the clown mask on his face, but I did a practice version of that drawing, and by the time I had done it, it didn't even look like him anymore, it just looked like a clown. So I decided to go with this photo of him. It's from the show. It's like in a scene where he just opens the front door and there he is, and I thought it was a perfect simple picture of him to draw, and I really like how it came out. Most of these drawings I did practice beforehand. I don't want you guys to think that I just went straight in my bullet journal with all of these drawings like this. I did not. I spent well over a week practicing different drawings, and making sure that I was happy with them. Obviously, that's a lot of work for a bullet journal, and you don't have to do this. But for me, one of my goals with my bullet journal is to expand my art skills. I'm very restrictive with myself, and I don't like to go out of my comfort zone that much. But with a bullet journal, I kind of want to use more permanent mediums like fine liners. If I'm doing a random drawing on a piece of paper, I don't need to use a pen. I can use a pencil or color pencils and do everything gradually. But I don't ever draw people, I don't ever draw celebrities, and I don't ever draw in pen. And this monthly setup has just forced me out of my comfort zone, and I'm so happy with it. I think most of these characters do look like the actors, at least I'm hoping they do. I do have a few that kind of look a little bit like generic people, but for the most part, I think my drawings came out looking decently accurate, and I'm really happy with it, and I liked how they turned out. Throughout this setup, you may see some of my practice drawings just pop up here and there. I did refer back to them to see what I liked and disliked and how I was going to change it for the final version in my journal. So if you see those drawings, don't mind them. And I do end up throwing them away. I do prefer most of the drawings that came out in the journal. On the next spread, or the spread after that, I drew Angela Bassett as Marie Laveau. And you'll see, she did not come out looking how I wanted her to, but it's okay. Oh, and now here is Sarah Paulson as Dot and Bet. They were definitely my favorite characters in the show of Freak Show. I just loved how this character, or two characters, came out. They had completely different personalities. She's meant to be a two-headed person, and I just loved it. I thought it was a brilliant part of the show, and I think they did it so well. Obviously it's CGI, and it does have a little bit of that CGI look to it, but I think it came out really well, and I just loved these characters so much, especially because you kind of felt annoyed at Dot, but you felt sympathetic for Bet, even though they were like on the same body, and it was just such a cool part of the show, and I really wanted to draw them here. And Sarah Paulson is also one of my favorite actresses. This is not the only time I drew her in this setup. I only drew her one more time, but she's definitely one of my favorites on American Horror Story, and I definitely wanted to have a bigger drawing of her face, and I ended up drawing two of her face because of her character. So yeah, overall, I love this spread. I love how it turned out. Let me know in the comments which of these spreads is your favorite or least favorite. This is definitely my favorite spread, I think. I just loved how the drawing of Sarah Paulson came out, and I also love Finn Whitrock. He does such amazing different roles in the whole show, and yeah, definitely my favorite spread. So this is the spread where I'll be drawing Marie Laveau, played by Angela Bassett, and I loved her as Marie Laveau, but unfortunately I don't think my drawing did her any justice. My practice drawing of her came out really well, but it was smaller than what I wanted. But I feel like her face looked a lot more realistic. As you can see, I've covered some of her face with white gel pen, and I tried to correct my mistake. After watching the footage over and over again, I think while I was tracing the image, I think the paper moved up or scooted to the side slightly, because as I kept trying to correct her face, I noticed that her eyes seemed a little too close together and her face seemed narrower than what it should be. And also like the top of her hair like looked as if it had been scooted up. So I think that was an error on my part when I was tracing it, but I tried my best to correct this drawing and make her look as much like the character as possible. I do think in the end though, she does just look like a generic person. She doesn't exactly look like Angela Bassett, but I tried my best, and I was initially thinking maybe I should draw her again and then stick it over the one I did in the journal, but I tried drawing it again on a separate piece of paper, and the second time around she just looked worse. So I just thought, you know what, it's fine. I'm gonna just stick with the one that's in my journal, and I tried to correct her eyes as much as I could. Her body came out fine, the proportions were fine, but her hair just came out a little bit taller, and it definitely looked as if her face had been moved. So I just had to work with it, and I don't think it looks too bad, but definitely not how I wanted it to. It's funny because out of my practice drawings, this one was one of the easiest. Like, I got her face down very quickly and it came out looking good in the practice version. But this one just, I don't know, the paper scooted and then it ended up not looking as much like her as I had hoped. But it's okay, you live and you learn. And this is the other drawing I have of Sarah Paulson. This is when she played Cordelia Good in Coven. And I just loved Cordelia Good. She was amazing in Coven and amazing in Apocalypse. And I just loved how she looked. I loved the blonde hair. I loved the witch's outfit. Which, by the way, for this drawing, this photo was taken from one of the scenes in Apocalypse. And that scene is only a few minutes long. And I, for the life of me, could not figure out what her outfit looked like. I had a general idea of what her cape looked like because she wears it several times in the show, but her dress underneath is always different. And this scene barely showed her body, it was mainly her shoulders and up. So I had to just kind of guess what her sleeves look like and the dress and everything. Because in the show, it's very shadowy and just all dark, and she's wearing black, so you can't really see. So I did my best to try and draw an outfit for her which made sense with the sleeves, but yeah, very difficult, and I've had to do that quite a few times with some of these drawings where the clothing is black because it's really hard to see through the shadows, but I still don't think they turned out too bad. I also decided last minute to add this gratitude log. It wasn't initially going to be there, but I just thought the page looked really bare, and I've always wanted to have a gratitude log, and I've never had one. So I thought, why not just add a little simple one in the middle of the page in some black paper and make it stand out. So for this spread, I'm drawing Lily Rabe as Lavinia Richter from 1984. She played Mr. Jingle's mother in that season, and I love Lily Rabe. She is such an amazing actress, and I love her in American Horror Story. I initially wanted to draw her from Murder House, but in Murder House, most of the time she's in the basement in the shadows, and you really can't see like properly what she looks like, and all of the photos from that season were very blurry, and I wanted to draw a reference photo that was a little more in focus and more detailed. So I decided to pick this one from 1984. I loved her character in this season, and she kind of reminded me a lot of the character that she played in Murder House, so I thought it kind of worked anyway. And also she's wearing a white top in this reference photo, and so that made it easier. Like I said earlier, drawing black clothing with a very fine pen is extremely frustrating, and I was like, yes, let me just draw this simple outlined clothing and call it a day. So now we're finally onto the weeklies, and for all 4 separate weeks I decided to do a Dutch door so that I would have more room for each day. I've noticed that for this month I feel like I had a little bit of a cramped space to write in, and I definitely wanted more room this month. So for each week there is a different drawing, and this one is of Evan Peters as James March in Hotel. I wanted to draw Evan Peters especially because I feel like he is one of the big faces of American Horror Story. And for me, I always call him Tate. Like, literally, I'll be watching any season of American Horror Story, and I'll always call him Tate because that's who he played in Murder House. But I didn't want to draw Tate, mainly because his hair was blonde and messy, and there are a lot of blonde characters that I've drawn throughout this spread, and I wanted to draw someone who looked a little bit different. And I also really loved his character of James March in Hotel. He really did that role very well. It was very different to other roles that we've seen him in, so I thought I would draw him as James March, the serial killer. This is one of those drawings that took me a while because of his blazer. It was very dark, and I also had to guess what the folds on the blazer opening looked like because the reference photo was very dark and shadowy and blurry, so I just did what I thought looked best, and I don't think it came out too bad at all. And this is my setup. Like I said, I'm doing a Dutch door in the middle and basically a quarter of a page per day. And then on the sides, I've got my tasks and my notes and somewhere where it shows me which week of the month we're in. And I love this setup, and I definitely might do this again. It definitely takes up a lot of pages, but I'm very excited to have more room to write in this month. So for my second weekly, I had to fit in Jessica Lange somewhere. She is definitely one of the big faces of American Horror Story, and I loved when she played Constance Langdon in Murder House, so that's why I decided to draw her from that season. I loved her as the witch, as one of the witches as well, but I just really loved her as Constance Langdon. That's definitely my favorite character that Jessica Lange has played, so I thought I would draw her from that season. There were other good reference photos of her as well, but I just loved the way her hair looked in this one, so that's why I decided to draw this photo. Also, for the rest of the weeklies, I'm not going to show how I set up each page. I'm just going to show you guys the drawings because I set up each page the exact same. I just changed the drawing for each spread. So for this weekly, I decided to draw Adina Porter as Dinah or Dina Stevens in Apocalypse. I wanted to draw her from Roanoke initially because that was her most memorable role to me. But when I looked up a photo of her from American Horror Story, and I remembered her as this gorgeous voodoo person in the purple dress, I was like, wow, I have to draw this photo of her. The dress itself was a pain to draw. It had so many little creases and details, and I don't even know what those beads are on the front, but I just kind of scribbled something down. But she just looks so beautiful in this outfit and the hairstyle, so that's why I chose to draw this one. Her face proportions didn't come out exactly how I wanted. I think her jawline, I ended up drawing it a little too low down. As you can see in the reference photo, her face was very in shadow, and I couldn't definitely see where her jawline ended. And knowing what she looks like and seeing my drawing, I think I made her jaw a little too low, but to me it still looks like her, and I'm the one who's going to be looking at this every day, so that's all that matters. So for my last weekly setup, I decided to draw Leslie Grossman as Margaret Booth from 1984. This was definitely one of my favorite roles she's ever done in American Horror Story. I love her in a lot of the seasons, but in this one, she was just so cool. It definitely had a good twist to the story, and I just loved how this drawing came out. This drawing, I definitely think was my most detailed one. Her clothing and her hair definitely had a lot of depth, shadow, and contrast, and I think that helped me make the image pop a little bit out of the page more than the other ones. Let me know what you guys think, which drawing was your favorite. I think, it's hard to tell. I think Lady Gaga and Sarah Paulson as Dot and Bet were my favorite drawings, but I think this drawing is the one I'm most proud of because I think it looked the most accurate to the reference photo. But let me know what you guys think. I'm really interested to know what your thoughts are on all of these drawings. So this is the final spread. I always like to have a monthly check-in and a monthly review page. The monthly check-in, I check in twice a month, and the monthly review is just what I write in at the end of the month, and I have little writing prompts for myself. But for this spread, I wanted to draw Billy Lord as Montana Duke and Emma Roberts as Brooke Thompson from 1984. Again, amazing season, and I just love these two actors so much, and I thought as a duo they went really well together in 1984. I loved the love-hate friendship they had in that season, and it was a really good season, especially from Billy Lord, because she was so different to how she was when she was one of the witches in Coven, and I just loved the change. And it was also good to see Emma Roberts different from Coven, because I don't know, her character in Coven just kind of seemed like what we always see from her, but in 1984 she was like a completely different person, and I just loved it. So yeah, that's why I decided to draw these two for my last spread. This whole setup was extremely exhausting to do, but I have to say I am so proud of it, and I really think I've forced myself to be better at drawing throughout. And also, by the way, if you guys like these spreads, I will have a digitalized version available on my Etsy shop. I will leave the link down below, and you can use it at any month of the year. I don't know if I'll have it ready by the time this video is posted, but I'll leave the link in the description box anyway, and you can check out my other spreads that I have available for download. All of my spreads are drawn in Procreate, and this one will be the same, so I'll be redrawing all of these drawings again so that you guys can download them and have them in your own journals. So in the corner of this page, I just wanted to draw the American Horror Story logo. I did a very messy version, I didn't trace this one, and I will not be including this logo in my digital download because that is copyright and illegal. So this is the final flip through. Thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you're still here all the way at the end of this video. I know it's a really long video, but I had so many drawings and I really wanted to make sure you guys could see the drawings from the beginning to the end, and I just love this theme. I love American Horror Story. I'm currently watching the season that's out right now, and I just wanted to draw all of the characters and really challenge myself artistically, and I think I did that. So let me know which spread was your favorite. Would you ever spend several hours drawing characters like this in your bullet journal? Let me know, I'd love to know. Make sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.